All right, welcome back to the Copywriters Podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how you doing today?
Nathan, I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic, and we've got the return of one of my favorite guests that we've had so far, and I think we're going to tag team this week's episode together.
That's right. Okay, so as we record this in mid-October, the world has without a doubt gone absolutely bonkers over AI. People are making all kinds of extreme predictions. Some see a heaven on earth in a future with AI, and others confidently predict unmitigated disaster. But how many of these people are actually talking from in the trenches experience? Who can take a long view based on what they've actually done and seen, and an informed view of what's possible for the future? I personally only know one person who fills that bill, and he's our returning champion, Sam Woods, our very special guest today. Sam has been in the game for 9 years, while most of us haven't been there half as long. And when it comes to AI and copywriting, I don't know anyone who's been in longer than Sam has. He got started with machine learning in 2016 and generative AI in 2019. That's 6 years ago. He was a pioneer in prompt engineering for AI copywriting and marketing. And Sam has advised Fortune 1000 companies and teams across the world, as well as advised and consulted with CEOs and other C-suite executives. He describes himself as a strategic AI architect who advises C-suite leaders on turning artificial intelligence into their most powerful competitive advantage. But more important to us, he's a seasoned and successful expert using AI for writing copy that gets results. So who better than that to help us see the bigger picture? We'll get some informed wisdom from Sam right after I share this informative wisdom with you. Copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear in this podcast, and most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims, and if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health, finance, and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. So, Sam, welcome back, and glad to have you again.
Good to be here again. Thank you to both of you for inviting me back.
Sure. So Nathan's going to start. He's got a number of things on his mind that I do too, but he can articulate them better. So Nathan, take it away.
All right, so we had you on. I think this is your third time on the show, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so the first couple of times we were specific about copywriting. We'll start off there. You were one of the first people to jump into AI that I was following and kind of trailblazed the whole scene of using LLMs for copywriting, for marketing. And it seemed like a lot of the first adopters of AI were people like us, people that were using it for using it for marketing, using it to write copy. Now AI is starting to go mainstream, and the specialization use of AI, use of LLMs has kind of shifted. It's pivoted towards generalized use. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on how that's going to impact us copywriters, us marketers that have been using it for a very specific use, and now they're trying to make it where it's a tool that can be adopted by the mainstream.
Yeah, I think if you're still using the web version of like ChatGPT or Claude, then you can still get good mileage out of both models for copy. They're not bad models per se, but you do need to keep in mind that both companies are developing their models and interface and so on in two different directions, and neither direction is specific for marketers. So ChatGPT is working hard at making ChatGPT the interface to the internet for anyone who wants to go online. So they have their agent, they have different functionality of using apps, plugins, and deep research, and image generation, and then Sora, the latest video model, Sora 2, I should say. So ChatGPT as a company, or I should say OpenAI as a company, wants to turn ChatGPT into a general purpose interface to the internet, which means that it'll never be, it never was, but it'll also, even more so, never be a tool specifically for copywriting or marketing. You will still be able to use it for stuff like that, but I see this already, and I think it'll become more clear to people that they're going to have to work harder to get the model to write good copy than they do now. And eventually, they're going to have to work really hard to get the model to write good, especially direct response copy. Claude, which is Anthropic's model and interface, Claude.ai, they're turning that into more of a professional tool, like for developers especially, but for professionals in general. So they're gearing it towards, I should say, like corporate use, maybe is a better way of describing it. I would still say that Sonnet 4.5, the latest one, is still the best writer out of most models, large language models out there. So you can still get good, decent copy out of it, but they're not making it for copywriters. They're not making it for marketers. Both these companies have different audiences in mind. Frankly, they had different, bigger, much bigger audiences in mind than copywriters. In the grand scheme of things, there are very few copywriters in the world, right? So my team and I have seen better success and results by using other models in other interfaces, and specifically doing things like fine tuning all the way to setting up specific agents that are customized, both in behavior and also context that they have available for the user copywriting. I think to the point now where what might take us, if we use the web app of ChatGPT, it might take us maybe 5, 6 turns to get a really good set of emails. But with a different setup, it'll take just 1 turn to get a good set of emails, right? So you'll have, if you stick with ChatGPT, you can still get good stuff, but it'll take longer and more work, if that makes sense.
So, what are the base models that you're using for writing copy where you can get good result in one turnout?
We still use ChatGPT and Sonnet, so both of them to compare, and we also use Llama 4 and so on. But the key distinction is that we're using the API to connect to these models as opposed to the web interface. Right? So web interface being ChatGPT.com or Claude.ai. You and I and whoever else is listening to this, we're probably using many of the same models, but we have a different way of accessing those models, which is through API connections, so that we have control over the interface. So you can choose. You either have the interface given to you with the limitations that it has from OpenAI and Anthropic, or you have your own interface and setup and context and memory and so on, and agents, while still making use of those models, because the models unattached from the interface given to you and the limitations given to you are still very good models. And then we experiment with many other models. And for example, we fine-tune models as well, which is, to explain that simply, it's basically taking a base model and tuning it toward a very specific purpose so that it becomes really, really, really good at one single thing. Meaning that we would fine-tune models for writing direct response sales pages, for example. And then we'd fine-tune another model for advertorials, for example, so that the only thing these models are good at are those uses. You can still ask it for jokes, but it'll be jokes that are probably as terrible as your jokes, Dave.
That'd be hard to do, but it's possible.
Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
A real quick question. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole too far, but how difficult is it to learn how to start using the APIs versus just logging in and using ChatGPT.com or Claude or whatever?
It's not difficult, but it does require you to do things that you probably haven't done before. So if you're familiar with any form of SaaS that is more complicated than clicking buttons, then you're probably good to go, because you can use something like typingmind.com, for example. It's like a midway between your own custom-made interface and versus like OpenAI's ChatGPT interface. TypingMind is somewhere in between, which it gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility to make the changes that you need to make that you don't have access to inside ChatGPT. But you also have the API connection. So, and there's documentation and videos on how to get the API key. There are millions of these videos. Like there's no secret. Just look up a video that'll take you 3 minutes to watch on how to get your API key from inside OpenAI or Anthropic, if that's what you use. And you take that API key, plug it into the right spot inside Typing Mind, and now you have access to API connections to whatever model you choose to interact with, while still you get the interface of a chat interface. But what Typing Mind also gives you are things like you can make your own agents, you can have your own prompt library, you can have your own database connected to it, you can have your own context connected to it, that does not have the same limitations that, let's say, projects do inside Claude or ChatGPT. Like those allow you to upload files, you can set up custom instructions, but they are limited. I think like 10 files or something like that, or there's file size limitations to what you can and cannot do. And you still have usage limitations, like you can't talk to it for 24/7 endlessly, like they'll stop you at some point. With the API connection, you don't have those limitations. And you do pay for the API calls, but it's very cheap. Like if you pay $20 right now for ChatGPT, you will probably, and let's say you use it every day to write copy, just for a couple hours every day, you will probably pay less than $20 in total API cost if you do it via Typing Mind.
Okay.
So you're not going to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars unless you like literally try to talk to it 24/7, right? So it'll probably cheaper than $20 even, but people are afraid of it because they're like you all of a sudden the cost is more apparent to you. They hide the cost behind the $20 per month. So you don't actually know. You might only cost them $5 a month, but you're paying them $20 for the convenience, right? But if you choose to take matters into your own hand with more flexibility and freedom, you see the cost more directly, but you're also in more control over your use.
Okay, this is something I'm going to have to jump into because I'm running into all the same limitations and
Yeah.
same situations that you've been talking about. To take it a slightly different direction, this is something I've heard you or seen you talk about a lot, is the speculation of the AI bubble. And we had the .com bubble that probably a lot of our listeners remember, and people are saying, well, now we're in the middle of the AI bubble. It's about to pop. Help people understand what the concern is, and then give us your take on the speculated AI bubble.
Yeah, so most of the time when people talk about an AI bubble, they're talking about the money being spent in that category of tech, right? So all
Which
the
is a lot.
funds, a lot of money, billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? With more being promised and planned for over the next few years, right? So tremendous amount of money. And you have people going, oh, they're just passing $100 billion between each other. Like NVIDIA pays Oracle, who pays OpenAI, who passes the $100 billion back to NVIDIA, and so on. So people can get really like conspiratorial about it, and I get it. And so there's a concern about the money bubble, right? Like this money's going to dry up soon, or eventually, if there's no quote unquote ROI proven by this tech. And then there's the tech bubble, which is that this tech and these models and other forms of machine learning models and so on, it's not as good as everyone says it is, right? Like we're going to run into a limitation, a ceiling, a roof, a ceiling where we can't go any further, and it's going to turn out that it was all a scam. Like everyone just hyped up the tech so much that when reality hits the road, or the rubber meets the road, I should say, it turns out that the tech was just overhyped and so on. And so that's kind of what's driving this. People talk about, they all say the AI bubble, but they usually mean one of the two. Now, the difference between what we're seeing now and like the .com bubble was primarily a financial and tech bubble together, because there's a lot of money poured into tech that was new, unproven, and hyped up. AI is not unproven, right? The tech in 2001, 2099, early internet days, very early, very basic tech. And people projected that, we can pets.com and everyone will start buying online and everyone will move everything to do online. Now most of what people do is online. So like the dot-com bubble was just people thought the future would arrive much faster than it did, and the tech wasn't proven, and it wasn't there. And but we're talking about baseline internet tech. AI technology, machine learning is not unproven. It is proven for several years now, even to the point where the other day, Google put out a research paper and a study where they had to simplify it, they had a model that was custom made for scientific cancer discovery purposes, research. And early indications and early results is that that model came up with a novel hypothesis that was not part of the training data. For a long time, people were saying AI will never be as good as the model is trained on, right? Like the training data, it'll never go beyond the training data, right? It'll just always repeat whatever is in the training data, unless you attach it to other databases and you bring in new knowledge to it. So it was always about all it can do is retrieve knowledge from what is being given. Well, that's probably not true. And I say probably because we need to see more validation of this and evaluation. But across the board, in all domains of human knowledge, you have models and systems that are custom made and fine-tuned and made specifically for their domain. They keep coming up with novel information that was not part of the data set. Last year, a ton of people, doomers and clueless people alike, were saying, we've hit the ceiling, it's not going to get any better. They will never come up with anything novel and new. They were wrong, right? So the tech is proven already with more room to go and to grow and to get better. And then the money is following that or projecting into the future of what that will be. But no one is running out of cash. Okay. So I keep hearing about this bubble, and smart people I listen to and trust keep talking about this bubble coming. But they've been saying this for a few years now, and the bubble is always a month or so away in their speculation, and it keeps not happening. So I'm sure at some point there'll be a market crash of some kind, and people will take, a report or a research paper that says, oh, that there's some limitations here, and they'll amplify that to be that, oh, the tech has hit a ceiling. Meanwhile, in the real world of just AI research, no one is running into any limitations so far. So, sure, a bubble will come of some kind, but I don't know when, and I would not be surprised if there is no bubble to come.
I like to think of what you were saying as we give it a bunch of dots and we're amazed by the connections that it's able to make. But now we are starting to see that it's coming up with its own dots. It's not just relying on the dots that we fed it.
And its own connections to those dots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
the thing
crazy.
Everyone was saying it'll never be able to do. So I keep seeing things happening that people said, oh, it'll never do this. It'll never do X, never do Y, never do Z. And then it keeps happening over and over and over and over again. And keep in mind, what we're seeing publicly is what they want us to see publicly, because there are models and research at these companies that are so far beyond anything that we can conceive of right now. I know firsthand that I don't know where the ceiling is, to be frank with you. I'm not sure we'll run into a ceiling for a very long time because they're working on stuff that is, they keep secret and under lock and it's internally. Like there's say what you want to say about Mark Zuckerberg, but he's not dumb. And if he's giving people billions of dollars to sign up for his company and to join his AI research team, there's something to it.
Okay, so I want to tie it back to Mark Zuckerberg real quick. I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook ads.
We all do.
They have Google and Facebook a couple of years back introduced dynamic ads where you could upload 5 different headlines and 3 different body text and they would figure out which one would work best. Now we're watching Facebook, and I'm assuming Google's going to follow suit. They're using their AI to do the targeting for you.
Mm-hmm.
You use the creative to help the AI figure out who to target. And it seems like I'm getting hit and miss, but it's getting better. but I wanted to
Yeah.
know your thoughts on AI when it comes to advertising, when it comes to dynamic, creative, and when it comes to targeting. What are your thoughts there?
I think I think eventually the only thing you'll be allowed to do inside Meta or Google and other app platforms is upload creative. And then you say basic, like here's who it's for, here's my offer, like go get me customers. And then that'll be the extent of what you are allowed to do or what you're given options to do. Because they have, I mean, already they have this, but they have more data on your market and your competitors than you do, and that you could ever find on your own if you did it. And they know what's working pretty quickly. They have machine learning models that have been cranking for years, doing these predictions, forecasting, finding connections, all that stuff. So it used to be that the bottleneck was, you as an advertiser, your knowledge of your offer, your audience, your business, your competitors, and that informed the copy you wrote and the offers you put out into the marketplace. That's not a bottleneck anymore. It hasn't been for maybe a year or two. Literally, you could put in ads for, let's say, 5 different offers that you don't know if they'll convert. You haven't tested them elsewhere. They're just like you're going to test to see if these offers could potentially convert. You make them, you put them up the sales pages and so on, make sure people can buy the thing. Then you upload half-baked, half-assed, excuse my language, creative. There you go. I think these headlines and these images will work. You feed that into the machine, so to speak, and then Facebook or Google will very quickly figure out if your offers and your ads will work for you because they know more about everything than you will ever be able to know. And in fact, I think if they ever did a study on this, which it probably won't, but my hunch is that if they ever made a study where they go, okay, we had all these human advertisers for many years do these things in settings and bidding and creative and all this stuff that they could do. And then we have our models in our system doing things. Which one overall is more profitable? It would not surprise me one bit if the Meta systems, Google systems, produce higher ROAS, higher everything compared to humans. It's just that it was opaque, it was hard to know. We only see a small sliver of reality at all times, and especially in the advertising world, that's even a smaller sliver of a small sliver. And then we make hypotheses about why our stuff converted. And we come up with reasons why things convert, and then we connect those reasons with human nature and persuasion and everything else. And it pains me to say this as a copywriter at heart. I still read my magalogs. I still look at direct response stuff, and I keep that fresh in my mind. But my guess is, my hunch, is that a lot of what was accepted as persuasion truth is going to prove out to be, half of it is going to prove out to be just hallucinations by humans.
We'll see. I have noticed though, to back up what you said, I've noticed that they have been taking away a lot of the options, and they're just saying, "Hey, trust us to make this decision for you."
Yeah. Which is both good and bad because they have their own agenda. Like they want to make money, so they will always, the house always wins to begin with. So, but they'll always skew it to be profitable for them. But if you can't make Facebook ads convert, then you're not going to pay them. So they're trying to find the balance between what works for them and what works for you because they need to give you customers, otherwise you're not going to pay them money, right? So like they got to give you somehow, some way.
Okay, this is to end the show. I've got a really squirrely question for you, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. The economy as a whole, and not just, oh my gosh, jobs are going to go away, but the stock market and using AI to predict stocks, predict which way stocks are going to go, and how much speculation influences the stock market. And once we have AI doing the speculation, and it kind of becomes the problem of, okay, we've got a hacking AI and we've got a security AI, and they're both going every second. The hacker comes up with a new way to hack, and the security comes up with a new, and we've got this like arms race basically. And I saw you mentioning the stock market, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. What happens when everybody has access to AI that can predict where the stock market's going to go, but everybody has access to the same AI and it's all making the same predictions, which I have no idea where that goes.
Yeah. So you'll have stock market prediction at different resolutions. The unwashed masses will have a low quality data feed, and maybe they use ChatGPT to ask like, what 10 stocks should I buy this month? Give me recommendations in whatever domain and market. And ChatGPT will do its thing, and it'll use whatever publicly available data it can find to a degree, and then it'll recommend 10 stocks to you. And then, but that does not mean that if I ask a question and you ask a question, Nathan, that we'll get the same 10 recommendations. There'll be some overlap between the recommendations, but you and I will have variations of recommendations, and that'll be true of everyone. So not everyone is going to get the same exact 10 recommendations, because it all depends on what time of the day you ask, what has happened in the market as a whole, news and just changes that happen, right? So the unwashed masses will have low quality recommendation given to them that'll work to some degree, but there are already quant shops, like people who do just pure math and machine learning models. They've been doing this for years, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with like what's it called, the super fast trading that computers do. It's called something specific. I just forget what it's called.
High frequency trading.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, high frequency trading. So it's already been a thing, right? The stock market you participate in today is already so heavily manipulated that it's a moot point how manipulated it'll be in the future, because it's already artificial in every possible way. Right? There's no true value stock trading anymore, for example. Right? It doesn't exist. So you're entering into a already fully manipulated stock market without AI, and AI will just bring speed to it, to normal people. That speed we couldn't do high frequency trading because it requires a ton of servers, computers, data feeds, all that stuff. And that makes it interesting, because once you have all these additional stock market players enter in with their own speculation and bidding, that affects stock prices, and then that affects projections and what people think will happen, to the point where I think the only possible way to trade stocks in the future, which in the future being in the next couple of years, would be to use some kind of AI system to give you recommendations, because it'll have faster, greater, more detailed, comprehensive data access than you will ever be able to figure out on your own, even if you follow a system, right? You have a method of sorts. And that'll be the only way to make it in the stock market, because if you don't, then you're truly at the mercy of the gods, and it'll go whichever way the dice falls. But if you use AI and sufficient data connected to it, and you ask the right question at the right time, and the market timing is right, then you'll be table stakes. And then from there, it's just a matter of how much are you willing to pay per month to have access to more sophisticated AI systems that'll give you stock recommendations. It'll look like it looks now. Everything is already manipulated. Nothing about the stock market is real. It's all artificial anyway. It'll just be a little bit faster, a little bit quirkier, and I think you'll see bigger winners and bigger losses.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't expect it to be dramatically different. It'll just be faster.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to ask you for a stock tip, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to ask you for an AI tip. For copywriters and marketers, business owners, interested in AI, wanting to keep up with the way things are going, what's the one skill you would recommend above all else to improve over the next 12 months?
Your ability to make a judgment call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, want to elaborate just a bit?
Yeah, so for you to make it, you need to let go of and turn down your tendency to question what you see. And that includes especially copy. You can endlessly discuss copy and turn it back and forth with your copy chief or a colleague of some sort. And you can rewrite and write and rewrite and write. And there's value to it up to a point. But the judgment call now that you need to make moving forward will be, when is it 80% done? And then that's what we go with. Because this faster you get market feedback from your copy, the more your chances are of success. This has always been true, but we've been in a window of time where you had the luxury of launching many different experiments up to a point, testing copy, headlines and body copy and anything else. And you have the luxury of working on a package for weeks or months in different industries, depending on what industry you're in. The sooner you stop living in those days, the likelier you are to succeed. You have the ability now to test far more copy to larger audiences that Meta or Google would find for you, and you just need to give it 80% done copy. So your judgment call as to when that 80% mark is key. When you go, this is it, it's good enough, go with it.
I love that you said that. I'm working on a new book. I'll get more into what the book is as I get clearer myself and as I get further along. But one chapter I just finished, which was incredibly hard because I put neuroscience into it, and I really had to think through how I do it and how I've seen people do it. Anyway, the chapter is called Right Before You're Ready. And the basic idea is get a window into where you want to go and just start writing. And write when you don't know anything, and let the information, let the writing process tell you what information you need in order to complete this. And and I think you put the ice cream in the cone, which is you just need to take it to 80% and get it out there and test it. We are in so much a fire ready aim world right now, and a lot of people don't know it. And I mean, there are legends like Mike Palmer to Gora who can take 6 months or a year to write and that was then, and this is now.
That worked really well then, but like you said, this is now. And Meta, Google, other app platforms, and just other platforms altogether, social platforms, their machine learning models are far better at prediction of what will work than you ever will be. So you don't even need to spend a ton of money on ads or whatever the testing campaign is. You don't need to spend a ton of money anymore. You can just spend a little and get accurate feedback from the market. Like, to me, the gold standard of what's it called? I keep forgetting. Like, you need to have statistical significance, right? This is going to be probably controversial to a lot of people, but I'm not sure that gold standard is needed anymore, to be honest with you. I don't see it being a thing anymore in the testing and the experimentation we've done.
Yeah, because it's embedded in the machine learning.
Exactly. It's already there.
Yeah. Very, very cool. I'm excited. Everyone should be scared shitless. But at the same time, we should be very grateful to Sam for letting us know the survival and thrival strategies. I mean, it's not always pleasant, but it's important to hear.
So who's the copywriter? Who's the what is it? The professor of harsh reality or whatever it was? This is Dan Kennedy.
Yeah.
So before we're out of here, Sam, first of all, thank you so much for coming back on and gracing our audience with your knowledge. If people want to find out more about you, follow up with you, see what you got going on in your world, where is the best places to find you?
SamuelJWoods.com. And it has links to my LinkedIn if you want to connect there, to my Facebook if you do, my YouTube, and other places. So go there, single URL, and you can find me on wherever else you want to connect. SamuelJWoods.com.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to have a link to that and a couple other resources in the show notes over at copywriterspodcast.com. So if you enjoyed this and you want to find out more about Sam, copywriterspodcast.com. And until next time, we will catch you later.
Catch you later. And thanks again, Sam.
Thank you.